I fell in love once, not with a person, but with a feeling, and that feeling almost destroyed me because I didn't know how to discipline my mind when love demanded patience, clarity, and strength. I remember the day I thought love had arrived in my life. My heart was racing, my thoughts were loud, and my mind was creating stories faster than reality could keep up. Every message felt like hope, every silence felt like rejection, and every small moment carried 1,000 meanings. I wasn't loving deeply, I was thinking endlessly. That was the moment I realized love doesn't only test your heart, it tests your mind. When you love someone, your mind becomes the battlefield. It imagines futures that haven't happened, fears losses that haven't arrived, and creates problems that don't exist. I loved with intensity, but without discipline. I allowed my thoughts to control my emotions, and my emotions to control my actions. I spoke when silence was needed, I reacted when understanding was required, and I doubted when trust should have stood strong. Disciplining the mind in love doesn't mean feeling less. It means thinking clearly before acting emotionally. I learned that love grows when your mind learns to pause. To pause before sending that message driven by insecurity. To pause before assuming the worst. To pause before letting jealousy poison something beautiful. A disciplined mind protects love from self-destruction. There were moments when my heart wanted to run, to accuse, to demand reassurance. But my mind had to learn patience. Love is not proven by constant words or dramatic reactions. Love is proven when you stay calm in uncertainty, when you choose trust over fear, and when you control your thoughts instead of letting them control you. As I trained my mind, my love changed. It became quieter but stronger. I stopped needing constant validation and started offering understanding. I stopped overthinking every detail and started appreciating the presence. Discipline taught me that love is not about possession, it is about balance. A calm mind allows love to breathe, to grow naturally, without pressure. In the end, I didn't lose love by disciplining my mind. I saved it. Because when your mind is disciplined, your love becomes mature, your emotions become stable, and your relationships stop being painful lessons and start becoming peaceful journeys. Love never starts in the heart the way we imagine it does. Before emotions take shape, before feelings grow deep, love quietly begins in the mind. It starts as a thought, a curiosity, a moment of attention given to someone who feels different from the rest. The mind notices first. It observes the smile, remembers the voice, replays the conversation, and slowly creates meaning. Long before the heart admits anything, the mind has already started building a story. In the beginning of love, the mind becomes a storyteller. It imagines possibilities, creates expectations, and paints a future using small moments as evidence. A simple message becomes a sign, a small gesture turns into hope, and silence becomes a question that demands answers. The heart only feels what the mind repeatedly tells it. If the mind is calm, love feels safe. If the mind is chaotic, love feels heavy, confusing, and overwhelming. Many people believe they fall in love because of emotion alone, but emotion is guided by thought. The mind decides what deserves attention, what feels meaningful, and what should be remembered. When someone enters your life, it is your mind that chooses to focus on them, to think about them late at night, to replay their words, to search for patterns. That focus slowly turns into attachment, and attachment slowly turns into love. When the mind is undisciplined, love becomes unstable. Thoughts jump from hope to fear, from trust to doubt, without warning. One moment you feel deeply connected, and the next you feel distant and unsure. This instability does not come from love itself but from the mind's inability to stay present. An undisciplined mind clings to imagination instead of reality, creating emotional highs and lows that exhaust the heart. Disciplining the mind at the beginning of love changes everything. It allows you to observe your feelings without being consumed by them. Instead of rushing into assumptions, you learn to wait. Instead of letting every thought define your emotion, you learn to question your own mind. Love becomes something you experience with awareness, not something that controls you blindly. When the mind leads with clarity, the heart follows with sincerity. Thoughts become gentle, expectations become realistic, and emotions become steady. Love no longer feels like a storm you must survive, but like a connection you can understand. The mind becomes the foundation where love is built, shaping how deeply you feel, how wisely you act, and how peacefully you connect. An undisciplined mind is one of the quiet reasons love turns painful. When thoughts are left unchecked, they begin to create stories that have no connection to reality. In love, the mind has a habit of exaggerating everything. A delayed reply becomes a sign of disinterest, a change in tone becomes a sign of distance, and silence turns into proof of rejection. None of these things are real, but the mind treats them as truth and the heart suffers because of it. Unnecessary pain in love is often self-created. It doesn't come from what the other person does, but from what the mind assumes. The mind replays conversations, analyzes words, and searches for hidden meanings that were never intended. This constant analysis creates emotional exhaustion. Love begins to feel heavy, not because the relationship is wrong, but because the mind refuses to rest. When the mind lacks discipline, emotions react instantly. There is no pause between thought and action. Messages are sent in anger, accusations are made without evidence, and distance is created where understanding was needed. Love becomes a cycle of overthinking, reacting, and regretting. The heart feels confused because it is being pulled in different directions by unstable thoughts. Jealousy is another creation of an undisciplined mind. It feeds on imagination rather than truth. The mind compares, doubts, and fears loss even when there is no threat. Instead of enjoying love, the mind stays alert, as if love is something that can disappear at any moment. This constant fear slowly damages trust and replaces peace with anxiety. A disciplined mind reduces pain by staying grounded in reality. It learns to separate facts from assumptions. It understands that not every silence is rejection and not every change is a sign of loss. When the mind is calm, emotions stop overreacting. Love feels lighter because it is no longer burdened by unnecessary fear. Pain in love often grows when the mind refuses to let go of control. It wants certainty in every moment, reassurance in every silence, and proof in every action. But love cannot survive under constant pressure. An undisciplined mind demands more than love can give, and in doing so, it slowly destroys the connection it is trying to protect. When the mind learns discipline, love becomes less painful and more peaceful. Thoughts slow down, reactions soften, and understanding replaces fear. The heart no longer bleeds from imagined wounds, and love begins to exist in the present instead of suffering in a future that hasn't happened. In love, emotions are powerful, but emotional control is what gives love depth and stability. Anyone can feel intensely, but not everyone can. Remain calm when emotions rise. True love is revealed in moments of uncertainty, misunderstanding, and emotional pressure. It is easy to say loving words when everything feels perfect, but it takes discipline to stay respectful, patient, and kind when emotions are triggered. Emotional control does not mean suppressing feelings or pretending they do not exist. It means understanding them before acting on them. In love, emotions often arrive suddenly, driven by fear of loss, desire for closeness, or insecurity. Without control, these emotions dictate actions. Harsh words are spoken, trust is questioned, and small issues are turned into major conflicts. Love suffers not because feelings were wrong, but because they were expressed without awareness. When someone truly loves, they protect the relationship from their own emotional reactions. They choose restraint over impulse. They choose to listen instead of react. Emotional control becomes an act of love because it prevents unnecessary damage. It shows maturity, respect, and understanding. A person who can control their emotions in love creates a safe space where both hearts can exist without fear. Many relationships break not due to lack of love, but due to lack of emotional control. Love may be present, but uncontrolled emotions create distance. Anger builds walls, jealousy creates suspicion, and insecurity leads to constant questioning. Each emotional outburst leaves a mark, slowly weakening the bond. Over time, love feels tiring instead of comforting. Emotional control strengthens love by allowing clarity during emotional moments. When the mind stays steady, the heart communicates better. Words become thoughtful instead of reactive. Silence becomes a choice instead of a punishment. Love grows when emotions are guided rather than unleashed. This control allows partners to face challenges without turning against each other. In love, discipline is shown not by dramatic gestures but by calm responses. It is shown when someone chooses understanding over accusation, patience over pressure, and trust over fear. Emotional control transforms love from a fragile emotion into a strong connection. It proves love is not just about how deeply you feel, but how wisely you respond to those feelings in moments that truly test the heart. In love, fear often speaks louder than truth. Fear of losing, fear of being replaced, fear of not being enough. When the mind is undisciplined, fear takes control and turns love into a reaction instead of a choice. Every action becomes defensive, every word becomes protective, and every silence feels threatening. Love stops flowing naturally and starts responding to imagined danger. Discipline teaches the mind to pause before reacting. It creates a space between what is felt and what is done. In that space, love finds its strength. Instead of responding from insecurity, a disciplined mind responds from understanding. Instead of reacting to fear, it chooses trust. Love is no longer driven by panic but guided by intention. Many people confuse reacting with loving. They believe that intense reactions prove care, that jealousy proves attachment, and that constant demands prove importance. But these reactions often come from fear, not love. A disciplined mind recognizes the difference. It understands that love does not need to control, chase, or test. Love needs presence, patience, and clarity. Choosing love over fear requires awareness. Fear demands immediate action, while love asks for patience. Fear imagines loss, while love focuses on connection. When the mind is trained, it learns to question fearful thoughts instead of obeying them. It asks whether the reaction is protecting love or damaging it. This awareness changes everything. In moments of misunderstanding, fear pushes people to accuse, withdraw, or emotionally attack. Love, when chosen consciously, seeks to understand instead of to win. Discipline allows the mind to stay calm during emotional storms. It prevents temporary feelings from causing permanent damage. Love becomes a decision made repeatedly, not an impulse triggered by insecurity. A disciplined mind understands that love cannot be forced. It cannot be controlled through fear or pressure. Real love exists in freedom, not in emotional cages. When fear is removed, love becomes honest. Communication becomes open, and trust becomes natural. The mind no longer searches for threats but focuses on growth. Choosing love over fear transforms relationships. It replaces tension with peace and confusion with clarity. Discipline teaches the heart that love is not about reacting to every emotion but about staying aligned with values. In that alignment, love becomes steady, respectful, and deeply fulfilling, guided by conscious choice rather than emotional reflex. A calm mind is one of the most powerful gifts you can bring into love. When the mind is calm, love feels safe, steady, and nurturing. There is no rush to prove anything and no constant need for reassurance. Love flows naturally because the mind is not filled with noise, doubt, or fear. Calmness allows emotions to settle into something deeper than excitement, something rooted in understanding. In love, chaos in the mind creates instability in the connection. Overthinking, constant worry, and emotional pressure disturb the natural rhythm of love. A restless mind searches for problems even when none exist. It creates unnecessary tension, turning small moments into emotional conflicts. A calm mind, on the other hand, observes rather than reacts. It listens more than it speaks. It understands that not every thought deserves attention. Deep love grows in silence as much as it grows in words. A calm mind appreciates presence without demanding constant expression. It allows space without interpreting it as distance. This space strengthens love instead of weakening it. When the mind is peaceful, trust develops naturally. There is no need to control or cling. Love becomes something shared freely, not something held tightly out of fear. A calm mind also allows patience in love. It understands that people grow at different speeds and emotions unfold in their own time. Instead of rushing the relationship or forcing outcomes, calmness allows love to evolve naturally. This patience creates emotional security. Both people feel accepted as they are, not pressured to become something else. Lasting love is built on emotional stability. A calm mind reduces misunderstandings and softens conflicts. When disagreements arise, they are handled with respect rather than intensity. Words are chosen carefully, and emotions are expressed honestly without harming the connection. Calmness does not remove passion, it refines it into something deeper and more meaningful. When the mind is calm, love feels less dramatic but more real. It no longer depends on emotional highs or constant excitement. It becomes reliable, supportive, and deeply fulfilling. A calm mind creates space for empathy, forgiveness, and mutual growth. In that space, love stops being fragile and starts becoming something that can endure time, challenges, and change.